Hi everyone and welcome to fan commentary on Shane's Karma Part 2. I won't say this is a perfect episode, it's one of my favorite episodes, but it still has flaws and I will point them out. This episode was adapting two Hurricane episodes that they really could not use, so unfortunately it suffers in a lot of key areas where it doesn't make any sense story-wise, especially on the Thunder Rangers side, where they could have worked a little bit better on explaining this, bit, and they could have used Lothar instead of using Mara and Capri as, funny bits of the episode. Battleizers and PR, their designs kept getting kind of weirder and weirder, and I didn't really care for most of them. And this was like probably the last time I really enjoyed its design and its origin story. What I also found very kind of disappointing is that, like I said, Sundauer in Hurricaneger was okay. He wasn't the best villain in the season, but Vesikis was done much better. Unfortunately, because Sandaru didn't get much to do in the Hurricane footage, he kind of gets dropped really badly in Ninja Storm. And because they had that whole like dynamic that they set up later when Lothar brings him in, although there's no real explanation of why that happens. I wish they had gone into a little bit more of a explanation of why Vexicus joined him. I mean, there's a loose thing where, oh yeah, my ship blew up. I have real no choice, but it seems kind of forced because Vexicus and Lothar do hate each other. Although I do hate it, like, this Mara and Capri stuff is really not important to the story, and I wish they had just done a thing with Lothar meeting Vexicus at some point in part one, and then they set up their plans that they do in this part, in that part, so that, they can double cross each other and set at least some sort of dialogue with each other up. The whole birthday party stuff, that's fine. The Rangers really didn't have anything to do, so they had to think of something in order to fill their time. I do like that Skyla has these special powers where she can communicate him through either forcing a memory to be recalled, or she just is able to read his mind, which is, I don't know, kind of creepy in some sense. What's most disappointing is that Vexicus was a really good rivalry to Shane, which I wish they had explored more, because you could see that Shane and Vexicus have really good sword techniques and all their abilities. They evenly match, even in this fight. Yes, he's a little bit stronger because he's a monster, and Shane is not really using his powers, which I thought was kind of dumb because if Skyla knows Shane and she's his energy, even if he wanted to keep the secret of the Ranger powers, she's not human in that sense, so he doesn't really need to hide it. But I do will respect Shane because, he's listening to what Sensei has taught him. Don't show his powers in front of people. So I guess that was overriding some sort of logic with him. What I also had wished they had gone into was more of the bonding. It's very simple in PR where Skyla got stuck in the web and Vexus was following her, and Shane saved her when he was a kid, but we don't really like. How does that like act as a bond? I wish there was more explanation of that background. In a way, I wish this was three parters. And I do also love the Ninja Store gold sword. I thought that was a cool, simple upgrade. I just wish they had used it more often because that's the thing that sucks about US exclusive power ups. They create them to sell the toy, which is fine, but then they don't really use them. This scene is one of those weak scenes where it's like it's just a forced scene in order for them to move the plot forward because Vexicus just simply gets scared and goes back into his ship while they walk off. It's just like, why didn't he just attack him with the ship? I wish they had structured it a little bit better where they were not near his ship at all and then simply Shane had to, get him to go away, but like Shane's suit had power down, but he got injured enough so he had to retreat. It's a little bit too forced there. This comedy bit really doesn't work at all. I really didn't like it because Chubo cares about this bank account. It's just like it's a forced joke. It doesn't make any sense. They're bad guys. Like they steal things all the time. Like what does that matter? This stuff should have been done in part one because again, they're gonna double cross each other either way. It's just like we should have seen how this, evolved, progressed. Lothor really doesn't get that much screen time in an average episode because there's so many other characters they have to focus on, and Grant McFarlane does a really good job as Lothor. I thought this was kind of dumb when they were like, "Oh, let's go back to the beach and pick up our stuff," and it's like, why didn't their stuff get stolen? It's like that's kind of obvious that would happen. It's just like I don't care. Blue Bay Harbor's not perfect. Someone's gonna steal your stuff, and that's what it should have happened. But Chubo and the guy stole the stuff. I mean, I can get it to a degree because, of course, Chubo was like, "Oh, that's the Ranger stuff," but he wasn't there. Mara and Capri were. So it's a funny joke, but it doesn't really make much sense. It's just here to waste time and give the Rangers something to do, which is unfortunately it doesn't really add up to the story, which is where the weakest part of this two-parter is that the other four Rangers don't get much to do. While in the Hurricane Drew episode, they were integral to the main story, where each one has important bits. The Ikatsuchi brothers come back and help them out. I think keeping the birthday party element would have been fine. I just wish it was done in a more sinister way, like Mara and Capri were like stalking the Rangers, and they actually intentionally stole their stuff. Maybe like steal their supplies so that they could actually use to set up the stupid party. I wouldn't call it not dying because you're losing your humanoid body and turning into energy, so your human body is dying. I do appreciate that the writer in this episode did actually say dying instead of her saying destroyed because it would have been sounded really bad. So I never understood the logic between how they like decide when to say death and die versus destroyed or not. It's inconsistent, which is really annoys me. Which it's more sad because what could have happened if she had stayed on and maybe they used the elements from the Hurricaneger episodes where their main leader came over and she could have been that substitute, or maybe movie footage if they had gone in that direction as well, because they could have used her as some sort of a princess in that sense from that footage. But then, like I had said in part one, it would rob of us this moment, which was very nice. And, I always nicknamed her the Phoenix because she does turn into a firebird. And I will say the battlizer for Ninja Storm is the best designed out of all of them. After this point, they started just becoming lazy and just reusing the six Ranger morphers as battlizer upgrades. I was like, I don't understand that. It's like, you want to sell a toy? Make a really cool toy. There's no problem with that. The lightning morpher was really great. It of course resembles the original morpher, but it has all these other additional functions and a new cool power disc design, which I always found kind of odd because the power disc has its own emblem, yet the battlizer never uses that design anywhere. This is the thing I didn't like also because there's no explanation of why their Thunder Zords were offline and then all of a sudden the power's weakening. It's like either they cut something out in the episode because it was just going too long and they had to truncate it, or they literally didn't write anything that explains why there's some sort of barrier, because this barrier does not appear in any other episode, which would be useful to block their Zords from forming. They could have easily had set up something where Vexicus has the ability with his spaceship to block the Zords from forming, and the only reason why it affects the Thunder Zords is because the Thunder Zords were known by Lothor, and he gave them, I don't know, either maybe passcodes of how the systems work, or some sort of like behind the scenes info. So Vexicus was able to reprogram his ship to affect those Zords, so they are blocked, and Cam had to go around it. That's really all they had to do, but they don't explain it, which is unfortunate because it's just our Zords don't work, and now all of a sudden they do without no real explanation. Zergain's Zord in the Hurricaneer footage was much more impressive in that series, while in here it's kind of a joke. I wish they had kept the more, intimidating elements of Zergain from Hurricaneer. It's like, at least he didn't evolve so far into like Rito did in MMPR Season 3 and Zeo mainly. Oh yes, the Powers Field 12 introduction, which was one of the Bandai America toys that did not get released over here, unfortunately. I don't understand what was up with Bandai America not releasing toys properly. It's a common annoyance that they did this because all they had to do was, yes, the Power Spheres were not released in one, each of the Zords, you only had so many of them that come in there, and then there's like I think a 18. And so they just released this NinjaCon set, which was repainted Ninjor, and they only released I think 3 or 4 in that set, and then that was it. The other ones never got released, and so the Spider one that came out in 12, we never got it over here, so you have to buy the Japanese version. The battlizer for Shane, I really liked its design. It more so than the Dino Thunder one that came up next year because I didn't really care for the Ninja Yo-Yo. I also like that it kind of resembles. It has like ports for add-ons, and it's very similar to what like an action figure would have in order to put pieces on. Which is I like that connection whenever Japan or PR does when they design their materials like the Zords and how they combine. You'll still see the actual pegs and connectors that the toy has on the actual suit. Just because it's a realistic show doesn't mean you should not acknowledge that it's still based off a toy element. And I think the introduction of this battleizer is much more better than SPD's, for example, because Jack's introduction to the battleizer is kind of rushed and through and through, but here, Shane really went through it with Vexicus. This ending a bit of the fight was truncated, unfortunately. Like I said, the whole Mara Capri thing really had reduced the time allowed for all the various bits, which they could have cut out, expanded Lothor's, and then extended this scene because there was a lot more material they could have used in the Hurricaneer episode. I'm glad though that they do have this final fight with Shane and Vexicus in the shuttle because we have to get rid of the shuttle, but also we finally get to showcase the Battleizer's flight mode. If you pay attention, you can actually see some Japanese symbols on it, which I thought was a very nice touch. There's a lot of Japanese elements into the show, which was great because it's a ninja season. Why not have those elements? I thought this cockpit of Vexicus was pretty cool and interesting. I wish they had kept it or repurposed it for something else. I do like that spinning thing in the background. Although I don't understand like how the Rangers knew where he was. I'm assuming because the power that was blocking everything magically appeared. This is again, there's no explanation for certain things. It's just this problem happens, and then all of a sudden this problem is already okay and no problem anymore. If you look really closely during the finisher, you can see some Japanese-esque type of symbols in the background when he fires his laser. I would love a lightning collection of this figure. I would like a lightning collection of all the battle lasers because I always thought they're pretty unique and cool. Even the ones I don't really care for, I still would like to get some figures based off the battle lasers that are nicely detailed where they have like their main weapons or be able to do their finishers. Even the Dragon Yo-Yo, the one I really don't care for, still have the arm attachments that can extend. This is where I wish they had gotten rid of Chubo because if you're going to bring in Vexicus, he might as well just replace Chubo and just remove Chubo from the equation because Chubo got nothing else to do at all Because again, in the Hurricaneer series, they killed him off and got rid of him right away, and that was pretty much it. Well, they kept him in here, which they should have just gotten rid of him, and Vex would just taken his spot. Now Sensei just comes back and is all happy-go-lucky and is up to date, and it's just like, when did they tell him behind the scenes? It's just like, we were literally here, and then they went to the battlefield. It's just like, when did he get this time to know what was going on? I do like it that no matter what, Dustin always seems to save the day, even when something stupid happens to him.